Hi, this is the first chapter of Principles of Microeconomics. This chapter is based on the book of Man Cave. In this chapter, we will discuss 10 principles of economics. What are these principles? Uh, Before to go there, we will discuss what is macroeconomics and what is microeconomics. Like microeconomics, the study of individual choices under scarcity and its implication for the behavior of prices and quantities in individual markets. Like under the microeconomics, we discuss our study at a small level, like at an individual level. But in macroeconomics, the study of the performance of national economies and the policies that governments use to try to improve the performance. Like under macroeconomics, we will discuss a large scale like unemployment, interest rate, inflation. But in the microeconomics, we will discuss the thing that related to individual level. In this chapter particularly, we will discuss or we will address to these questions, like what kind of questions does economics address, what are the principles of how people make decisions, what are the principles of how people interact, what are the principles of how the economy as a whole work, what economics is all about. What is economics? Like economics is scarcity, like the limited nature of society's resources. We should efficient use of the limited resources. That is basically economics. Like economics, the study of how society manage its scarce resources. For example, how people decide what to buy, how much to work, how much to save, how much to spend, how firms decide how much to produce, how many workers to hire, how society decides how to divide its resources between national defense, consumer goods, protecting the environment and other goods, other needs. Like these are decisions we should take under the scarce resources and efficiently use to resources. That is economics. Here, these are the principles, and under these principles, basically, we will look three things that is also discussed in this slide. Like what are the principles how people make decisions, first thing. Second, how people interact, second, and how as a whole market works. Basic three things here. At first stage, we are going to discuss how people make decisions. Like this is the first principle of economics. People face trade-off. All decisions involve trade-off. For example, going to a party the night before your midterm leaves less time for study. You have a trade-off here. If you go for a party, less time for study. And if you go for study, less time for party. Because we have a limited time in a day, only 24 hours, and in 24 hours, party, study, sleeping, all the things are interact. And secondly, Having more money. Secondly, having more money to buy stuff requires working longer hours, which leaves less time for leisure. Same here, trade off. If you are going for a more working, then less time for enjoyment. And last, protecting the environment requires resources. Definitely, if you want to protect your environment, you should invest the resources, but you have less amount for the consumer goods. Otherwise, if you not invest on the environment protection, then you can invest on consumer goods. Always in first principle, we are saying always every person face trade-off. Secondly, under this principle, society faces an important trade-off life like in term of efficiency versus equality. Efficiency. What is efficiency? When society gets the most from its scarce resources. If you gain more from the limited resources, that is efficiency. But on the other side, when prosperity is distributed uniformly among society's members, that is equality. If you have 10 apples and 10 people in the economy and you distribute one apple to each person, that is equality. But what is the trade-off? Trade-off is to achieve greater equality could redistribute income from wealthy to poor, but this reduces incentive to work and shrink the size of the economic pie. Like if you redistribute the income and government takes from wealthy people and give to the poor, people will not go to work. People not like to work because they are taking amount without doing any work. And on the other side, economic pie will reduce, economic activities will reduce. At the second stage, we will discuss here the principle number 2. The cost of something is what you give up to get it. Like opportunity cost. If you want to one apple and for the one apple you must give, if you give the 2 mangoes for one apple, that is the opportunity cost. Making decisions requires comparing the cost and benefit of alternative choices. If you go for a higher degree, you should consider the alternative benefit and cost. What are the benefit? What are the costs? This is the main crux of the principle number 2. The opportunity cost of any item is whatever must be given up to obtain it. If you make 500 computers and on the other side from that available resources you can make 5,000 ton wheat, and if you prefer to make 500 computers, you should lose 5,000 ton wheat. That is the opportunity cost of 500 computers. It is the relevant cost for decision making, and this is most important. For example, the opportunity cost of going to college for a year is not just the tuition fee, also books and fees, but also the foregone wages. If you go for a master and the same person that is in the market taking wages, you are not taking because you are in study, that is also opportunity cost. Saying a movie is not just the price of the ticket but the value of the time you spend in the theater. This is the opportunity cost. And the principle number 3, rational people think at their margin. What is the rational people? Who is the rational people? Rational people systematically and purposefully do the best they can to achieve, like make decisions by evaluating costs and benefits of marginal changes, incremental adjustment to an existing plan. If you invest 1 lakh dollar in a business and you make 1000 units of the good, and if you invest more extra 1 lakh dollar and you also produce 900 units, you are going to increasing with a decreasing rate. But if you go for a negative side, then you should stop. Rational people always produce take decisions at the time when he is taking benefit, like marginal changes if give the benefit to the producer or any person, that is the best way to express the rational people. Like rational people think at the margin. Example, when a student considers whether to go to college for an additional year, he compares the fees and foregone wages to the extra income he could earn with an extra year of education. When a manager considers whether to increase output, she compares the cost of the needed labor and materials to extra revenue. Like every rational person go for the comparison of cost and benefits. What are the cost? What are the benefits of the extra production? And the principle number 4 is based on people respond to incentives. This is the whole crux. If we can describe to economics in one sentence, this is the sentence: people respond to incentives. This is the principle number 4 under the how people make decisions. People make decisions and the reference of incentives. If they looking for the incentives, they will make decision. Incentive, something that induces a person to act. The prospects of a reward or a punishment. Like rational people respond to incentive. For example, when gas prices rise, consumers buy more hybrid cars and fewer gas related. When cigarette taxes increases, teen smoking falls. Simple rule, simple principle. This is the principle number 4. And here one activity. If you want to sell a 1996 model car and you have already spent $1,000 on repair, at the last minute you see the transmission dies of the car, you can pay $600 for the repair or you sell as is. In each scenario, blue book value is $6,500 if transmission works, and without the car price is $5,700. And in another second condition scenario, blue book value is $6,000 if transmission works, and otherwise $5,500. Cost of fixing transmission is $600. According to the scenario 1, blue book value is this $6,500 and the otherwise $5,700, and the benefit of the margin of the like fixing the transmission is 800, and in the other second scenario the benefit of fixing the transmission is only 500. So we should repair the transmission is scenario first, and in the scenario 2 we sell without repairing the transmission. This is the main crux of the previous principle. Observation like the 1000 like the $1,000 that you previously paid on the repair, that is irrelevant and no related to the current decision. These four principles that those who have discussed in the past lectures is related to how people make decisions. Total we are uh, saying at the top like total 10 principles of the economics. From those 10 principles, 4 principles are related to how people make decisions, and next we will see the principles under the category of how people interact. Principle number 5, like trade can make everyone better off. Rather than being self-sufficient, people can specialize in producing one good or service and exchange it for other goods. Countries also benefit from trade and specialization, get a better price abroad for goods they produce, but other goods more cheaply from abroad than could be produced at home. This is the core crux of the principle number 5, how people interact through the trade. Like under the trade everyone can better off instead of the self-sufficient in each and every good. In principle number 6, markets are usually a good way to organize economic activity. Like how people interact, in previous principle we say people are interact through the trade, and in this principle peoples are interact through the market structure, like through marketplace. Like market, what is market? Market a group of buyers and seller at a certain point, like need not to be single location. At this time if one person make a website where someone can purchase and sellers and buyers are available. Like we can take examples of Amazon, and Amazon is not necessary to everyone get and one location, uh, can be different location for seller and buyer, but at Amazon is a market where anyone can buy and sell. Organized economic activity means determining what good to produce, how to produce them, how much to each to produce, who gets them. Simple is the market tells us what good to produce. Like market tell us which good is more needed by the consumers and how to produce. These are the things are related to market. Like a market economy allocates the resources through the decentralized decisions of many households and firms as they interact in market. Famous insight by Adam Smith in the Wealth of Nations in 1776. Each of these households and firms act as if led by an invisible hand to promote general economic well-being. Under the market, according to the invisible hand theory, every person is working for its own benefit, and at the end ultimately economic well-being will increase at general level. Like the invisible hand works through the price system. The interaction of buyers and seller determines the price. If two persons, one is seller, one is buyer, the mutual consent determines the price. What is the price of the good in the market? Each price reflects the goods value to buyers and the cost of producing the good. Prices guide self-interested households and firms to make decisions that in many cases maximum society economic well-being. That is simple. Like markets play the more powerful role in the society. The principle number 7 tells us people can interact through governments can sometimes improve market outcome. Like governments should intervene in the market sometime. Due to government intervention markets outcome can be improved and people can interact. Like important role for government enforce property rights while through policing or courts. Property rights are most a major component of the society. People are less motivated to work, produce, invest, or purchase if large risk of their property being stolen. These are the things that can be improved by the government improvement, and people can interact. A market failure. When the market fails to allocate society's resources efficiently due to two reasons. First is externality. What is externality? Like due to the action of two people. Third one disturb. The action of two people's effect on the third people. That is irrelevant to that transaction. When the production or consumption of a good affects bystanders through pollution, and the market powers, a single buyer or seller has substantial influence on market prices like monopoly. Like these two things, externalities and market structures can be failed to the market, and due to these things market fail and government should intervene. When government intervene the output of the market will increase, and due to this action people will interact. This is the principle number 7. Government may alter market outcome to the promote equity. These are the some things that is related to the government, and the discussion questions like in 4 cases government should role play or not. Government should play the role in all 4 categories. First is the public school, and for public school government should intervene. Workplace safety regulation government should intervene. Public highways government should intervene, and patent laws government should intervene. These are the things due to the government involvement outcome will increase, and we have done up till now the 7 principles, and now from this point to onward the principles of how the economy as a work like whole. Principle number 8. A country's standard of living depends on its ability to produce goods and services. How all the nations are work together, like the living of standard of a country depends on the production ability of goods and services. Huge variation in living standard across the countries, and over time average income in rich countries is more than 10 times higher than the poor countries. Like last from 100 years the US standard of living 8 times improves, and the most important determinant of living standard productivity, the amount of goods and services produced per unit of labor. Productivity depends on the equipment, skills and technology available to workers, and other factors also. And this is the main principles. Under this condition the whole economy is working to the ability of production and of goods and services. And the principle number 9, prices rise when the government prints too much money. When the government prints too much money, excess money in the market, and people have more money to purchase, and prices will increase. So if we can see in the short run mv is equal to py quantity 3 of money. If the velocity and the output real output constant V and Y, then M increase, then P definitely will increase. Like the inflation increase, like what is inflation? Increases the general level of prices, in which we can say in short run if velocity of money supply like changes the hands, like circulation of money and the real output is constant in the short run, when the money supply increase, prices will lead to increase. If the money supply increases faster than the real output, and if you print more money, households will have more cash and more money to spend on goods. That is why the price level increase when the government print too much money. For example, suppose the economy produces 100 units of output and $10,000 money supply, and we can divide 10,000 by 1,000. Each good average price is $10, and if the money supply increased to 15,000 but the units are same, like real output Y is constant in the short run, 1000 units, then the prices of good increase from $10 to $15, because money supply increase but goods are same. If output increase by 5% and the money supply increase by 7%, then inflation will be roughly increased by 2%. And in above example, assumption is exist. What is the assumption? In real world, if government print the money, people would just decide to save the extra money. But in our example, all the money should consumed by the consumers. Assumption is exist. Last principle is society faces a short run trade-off between inflation and unemployment. Like if inflation increase, unemployment will decrease, and inflation decrease, unemployment will increase. Many economic policies push inflation and unemployment in opposite direction. This is the 10th principle of the economics, and this is the summary of the chapter that we have discussed in all the principles. This section ending here. Next we will move on interdependence and gain from trade. Thank you.